I've been on the AT just in small sections. And so we also lived in Leadville, so we spent a good amount of time on the CDT and the CT in that area and around Leadville and Twin Lakes. And so we have a lot of interesting guests. You pick a topic, we've probably had someone on that could cover that topic from ultra marathons, through hikers. We've even had Bigfoot experts on. So we wanted to sit down and chat with you because what you did was amazing. And a lot of people that listen to us come here to be inspired and motivated and hear about people that are pushing themselves beyond what most people think is possible. So we're stoked to talk
Thanks
to
for
you.
having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, we are excited. Jim, give me a thumbs up. I wasn't.
Yes, I did.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right, y'all. We are back for another Tuesday night episode going live. We have an amazing guest with us this evening. She is fresh off her FKT on the Appalachian Trail. Notice I said Appalachian, not Appalachian. Been down in South Carolina long enough to figure that out. But Tara Dower is joining us tonight. Like I said, she's fresh off the AT and her through or FKT or through hike of the 2,190-mile trail. She finished it in just 40 days, 18 hours, and 5 minutes. So it's quite a feat over, I believe, 55 miles a day. Is that correct, Tara?
Yeah, I think it counts like 54, 55 miles a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And some of Tara's other accomplishments before we get into it, obviously, we just talked about the FKT on the AT, but she also has a FKT on the Priest and Three Ridges in Virginia, the Colorado Trail, the Benton MacKaye Trail in Georgia, Tennessee, and North Carolina, and the Mountains to Sea Trail in North Carolina, along with some stellar ultramarathon finishes. She was fourth at the 2024 Hardrock 100. She won the overall at the Umstead 100 in 2024. 2023, she was the Hellbender champ and the Run Rabbit champ, as well as the Devil Dog Ultra 100 champ in 2022. Tara, thank you for joining the Airey Bros this evening. It is an honor and a pleasure, and welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, we'll get down into it before we give you a through line here. Anywhere you would like the fans or the folks to find you, any of your sponsors, anything you got going on, Girls on the Run, any of that stuff, the floor is yours. Give them their socials.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Tara, Tara dot Dower, Dower. And also I make YouTube videos, and that's under Tara Treks, Treks. And then yeah, so like you mentioned, I have been raising money for Girls on the Run with the Appalachian Trail record. And I'm gonna close it out here soon because I'm also you guys know very well, but Western Carolina, Tennessee experienced with Hurricane Helene still doing a lot of recovery efforts from that. And so me and my friend are starting to sell some of her artwork from the FKT to give back to communities for that. So I'm about to close down the Girls on the Run. We've raised nearly 46, I think $47,000 for Girls on the Run. It's just so incredible. I'm so excited about that. But now we're gonna start looking towards recovering the mountains, the Appalachian Mountains, and those communities in them. But yeah, that's what's going on with me.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing all that. I look forward to seeing some of that art as well. A little bit of a through line. Well, I guess we could do maybe some Colorado icebreakers. We discussed earlier you're not actually living in Boulder, but you had passed through there and you've been spending some time in Colorado. But we do have maybe some Colorado icebreakers for you that we were planning for, thinking that you were living in Boulder. But
Mhm.
do you have a favorite 14er?
Could it be any 14er in the United States, or does it have to be Colorado?
How about
Any.
both?
Yeah.
I think Whitney would
Hmm.
have to be my favorite 14er. It's gorgeous. I saw the sunset up there, or sorry, sunrise. But if I'm to pick out of Colorado 14ers, it would probably be Handy's
Hmm.
because that was a pivotal moment in the Hardrock 100. It's a epic Epic mountain.
No lightning?
No lightning. None
Okay,
this
good.
time. Thank goodness.
Tara, do you own a Melly?
Nope.
Do you have a favorite microgrid hoodie?
Yeah, I like my friend has a company he started called Leave Outdoor Company, and he makes like grid fleeces, and he makes a lot of gear for he makes like sil poly rain jackets, and he's always like geared me up for these big trips I'm doing. I wore his fleeces and his rain jackets during the FKT, and he's a good friend, Cameron, with Leave Outdoor Company. And yeah, not that I'm a proud non-owner of a Melly. I just think it's like it's it's a lot of hype and everyone has one, and it's like, whatever. I'm kind of like, I don't understand the hype behind it, I guess maybe.
Yeah, that's an interesting hype. I remember going to Leadville starting in 2014, where you could just walk into the store and buy one right off the shelf. And then in living in Leadville, I actually spent some time as a sales staff member in the store when that kind of hype was blowing up and
Oh yeah.
being very difficult to keep up with demand. So I'm always curious what people wear when they're out on the trails, if they're a melee enthusiast or they've got some other kind of niche boutique brand that's making some cool stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of those companies out these days.
Yeah. How about craft beer or whiskey or
Craft beer.
neither? Craft beer,
Yep.
IPAs.
Yes. I
Okay.
mean, like, I'm an outdoorsy person. It's kind of that cliche, like, of course I have to like IPAs, otherwise I'm not a outdoorsy person, right?
Right. Winter sports, ski or snowboard or neither?
Snowboard? I don't really do a lot of winter. I would love to. I just don't live I've never like timed the places I'm like living with winter seasons, if that makes sense. Like I've never
Yep.
been somewhere really cool where you can get a lot of winter sports access. I've always been in like Florida or Virginia Beach during winter season. So if I had to pick one, it would probably be snowboard because I've only snowboarded twice in my life, and that's what I
Okay.
did.
All right. All right. Well, Tara, a little through line for you, or two through lines for you. In uh, in some rabbit hole one day, a while back, a couple years ago, I was reminded of the 12 tribes on the
Oh, yeah.
AT. And so, in climbing in and out of that rabbit hole, I discovered your YouTube channel, and you have some stuff on there about the 12 tribes and all that stuff. We can get into that if we have time later. But that was where I first kind of discovered you. And then
Mm,
obviously you started doing the ultras and those sorts of things and having a lot of success. And then most recently, a friend of the pod is our friend Carl Meltzer, the speed goat. And
yeah.
I know that you have spent some time working with him and planning and preparations for some of the things that you've been doing. So those are our through lines for you. With that being said, one of the biggest things in the trail community through hiking is the your nickname, your trail name, and you
Yep.
are the Candy
Candy
Mama.
Mama. Yep.
So if you could maybe go into a little bit about the significance of trail names, how people get them, and then how you got yours, and maybe if you've ever given anyone one.
Yeah, so the significance there is that people, especially when they're through hiking, this happens on section hikes too. I've mainly seen it on these long trails. So like I would say AT, PCT, CDT, Colorado Trail even. You get into like a trail family or like a group of people and you're hiking with them and you guys kind of come up with nicknames for each other. I don't know how that came about. It's such a fun little thing in the trail, like through hiking, backpacking culture, is that you come up with these like silly names. And usually these nicknames come about if something happens, like if, for instance, a famous story is this girl's named Peter Pan, and she is like, I feel like everyone knows this story who's through hiked, but she is like walking and she really had to pee, but then she laughed really hard and she started peeing her pants. And so they were calling her like pee her pants, but then it just turned into like Peter Pan. And that's kind of how that came about. So it's just like fun little stories. And for mine, I ate a lot of candy and ate my preferred candy was Airheads, so like the mini Airheads. And I would eat these all day long and eat them at night. And I wouldn't brush my teeth that well when I was through hiking the Appalachian Trail. So there wasn't a lot of access to like quality, like teeth care out on the Appalachian Trail. And so I got back from through hiking and I went to a dentist and I had 6 cavities
Uh-huh.
that they had to fill by the time I was done with the AT. And then the mom part of it, I just like mommed every one of my trail family. So much so it was like it was kind of ridiculous, honestly. And I've gotten better about that, but I would check in with people like, oh my gosh, you're tired today. Like, are you sure you don't have Lyme's disease? Like, no, it's not because they're like hiking 20-mile days. It's because they have Lyme's disease. That's the natural progression of this. But yeah, I just mommed people and I ate a lot of candy. So that's where mine came from.
Has the candy game evolved? I know it's become your gimmick. Have you figured out a way to get some candy, maybe a take five, something with a little bit more nutrition so you can still eat candy, or do you prefer to eat real food when you're doing a through hike like you just did?
Yeah, I prefer like my dentist after that 6 cavity debacle, she was like, you need to eat chocolate. Chocolate melts off your teeth. So I started eating a lot of chocolate, but on the Appalachian Trail the second time, I did a lot of candy salad, which is just like a variety. You just throw all these like different candies in a bag, and that's candy salad. So I was doing a lot of that, and since going to a dentist and having a 6 cavity debacle, she says you need a floss because the what happens with the chocolate can melt off your teeth, but with the sticky like gummy candy, it gets in there and it can't get out. So flossing helps take that out. And if it doesn't melt, so it's just gonna stay there until you floss. So that's kind of the progression there. I've tried to like stay away from this gummy candy, though I know it's not good for you.
So we could definitely hang out because back in the day, like Rich said, I was a wrestler, so junk food was kind of my drug of choice. And we
Yeah.
used to do a thing where I would do the candy salad, but I called it a gummy ball. And what I would do is I would go and get like 10 different types of gummies and put it in a big ball and just shake it up. And I would walk around Rich's house with my gummy ball and
Oh yeah.
whether it be sweet as fish or chewy sprees, anything. We
Yeah.
never, I never put chocolate in it, but I feel like that would
Yeah.
be a good, maybe not out on the trail, but maybe for a party. So I could definitely get down with that for sure. And a little
Yeah.
bit of a pro tip because I don't do gummies anymore. I think I hurt myself because I ate so many, but something that still kind of gets it for me is papaya spears.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Like
Yeah.
dried papaya?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you
Yeah.
just gotta make sure they don't have like the sulfur on them and stuff. But
Oh yeah.
you get a place that you're in Denver, Natural Grocers, they have really good dried papaya
Mm.
spears.
I need to go check this out.
Yeah.
Good pro tip.
Tara, is there a big difference? I think you mentioned it with Dylan, the difference between fueling for through hiking versus fueling for an FKT. Is that a big difference?
Yeah, it's a big difference. I mean, part of the reason, part of the like factor, I guess, with through hiking, I didn't have a lot of like money then, so like it was kind of whatever you could get close to the trail. So that usually looked like a Dollar General, and that wasn't like super expensive too. So usually that didn't mean like the most healthy or like protein dense foods. Luckily, we would go into town, like my trail family and I would go into town every week-ish. So we'd get like a good meal that we could sort of refuel on. Um, the difference also there's you need a lot more calories and a lot more protein to go long and far in a day. Like for instance, on an FKT or in an ultra, you need a lot like more quality, like quick acting like calories and protein and especially for an ultra, you need something that's gonna, as you know, you've done Leadville, but you need those like gels and things that are gonna get into your system really quickly. With through hiking, it was kind of like, what has the most calories? I know I need an amount of protein, so I'm going to throw in like one protein bar, but it's really just like eating until you're full and eating whatever you can.
What sorts of stuff on the FKT? I think you were using Tailwind a little bit. Have you dealt with or dabbled with the Morton and those sorts of gels?
Yeah, on the FKT, I actually kind of stayed away from a lot of that like pro food stuff. We ended
Mhm.
up doing a lot of like whole foods. I was lucky enough to have such a great crew out there, and I can talk about them this entire podcast because it is because of them why I finished and did so well. But out there, we had 4 people in particular come out at different times. But Amy and Steve, they had a van, and they were able to cook anything and everything. And she's really good with nutrition, so she like kept track of my calories, macros, protein, fats. And then they left for like a week, and we had Fresh Grounds come in, and he made me really nice calorie dense foods. And then he left, and Flipper came in, who is a trail family member of mine, and he, took on the act of like making these really protein fat dense foods. And then Amy and Steve came back, and Flipper left. And so I just had really great people there that were keeping track of all these foods and things for me. So like with saying all that, I was able to fuel really well out there, and I didn't need to eat. I didn't need these like fast acting like Morton's or Tailwind. I actually never used Tailwind out there. I'm a first endurance athlete. And so really the only products I used from them out there were their protein shakes. I had 6 or 7 of those a day. And then they have like these multivitamins that I took every day. And that was actually by Carl Meltzer's advice. He's such a good mentor of mine that he's helped me with constructing these fueling plans, because I have no idea what I'm doing, especially for a 40-day FKT. I kind of rely on these people who've done it. I rely on their advice and his mentorship.
So you mentioned doing it in 40 days and kind of relying on other people to give you advice that have done it before. And I know the first time you tried the AT, did you get 80 miles, was it?
Yeah, I tried it through hike in 2017 and got 80 miles to Bly Gap and had a panic attack.
And I noticed you saying, and the reason why you went headed south was because you didn't want to look at the mountains for however long, or what do they call them, the white
White Mountains.
caps?
The
White
Yeah,
Mountains.
whites,
the
yeah.
whites. Yeah, you didn't want to look at them because you didn't want to give yourself anxiety. So how do you go from, the first time you do it, you don't finish. Second time, it took you a couple months, right?
5 months and 10 days.
And then this time you break the record. How do you have that mindset of, doing what you can, what's in front of you, not worrying about the next day, but still you're trying to get that record?
Yeah, I think it was just by, pure experience. And I view like this trail career that I call it like as, a ladder. So I've obviously in 2017, I had that bad anxiety that prevented me from finishing the AT. But since then, I've gotten to the point where now I'm on trails and I feel very comfortable, and anxiety is not really a factor. I'm in Denver right now. I feel more anxiety being in the city of Denver than I do, anywhere else. But trails, I definitely feel like the most comfortable. So since then, since those 2 points, I've worked on my anxiety a lot. And, from experience, always exposing myself to whatever was making me really anxious in 2017, keeping that exposure up and working on techniques that help me like manage my anxiety. So that looks like one of them, is, with the White Mountains looming in the distance, it's what that mindset is just like make this mile, make this day the best day that you can make it, because that's all you can really do. Like in my experience, I've realized like worrying about the future will not do anything. It won't help. It will just make it worse. And so I feel very confident when I tell myself, when I bring myself back to the moment, I'm like, okay, this is the mile you're in, and you need to focus on this mile, make it the best one you can make it. And techniques to bring myself back to this moment, it looks like, either self-talk, or it could look like simply taking, some gravel or some rocks and like feeling the gravel. And that kind of brings you back to the body and brings you back to the moment. So those are just some techniques that I worked on since 2017 to relieve some of those feelings of anxiety.
Was there any meditation put in play from 2017, or was that all just done on the trail and spending time out there?
It was all done on trail. It was all just exposing myself to the trail and whatever, whatever made me nervous.
That is pretty impressive. No time on the cushion. Dabs to you on that. When did you finish? How long you been off the trail for?
Yeah, I've been off for a little over 3 weeks now. I finished Saturday at 12:53. Nope, 11:53, and that was, so yeah, a little more than 3 weeks ago that I finished.
So how are you feeling? You feeling back to normal? Did you have any kind of post-trail depression as far as what am I doing? Like you just said you're in Denver and you'd rather be on a trail.
Yeah, yeah, it's gotten a lot better, but I did feel of amount of, they call it like exactly like you said, post-trail depression. I did feel I feel a lot of sadness still. I like miss the trail so much, and I miss like, in a through hikes are amazing. There's no regular through hike. But in a typical through hike, it's you get used to this lifestyle and you get used to like the goals. Every day is so simple, and you're just on trail and you're with, all these different people all day long, and it's a different relationship than something you'd experience in society. I know that sounds so cliche, but like society. Um, and so like that's just like regular through hiking, but this experience, what I experienced out here was just very intense. That's the best word I can use. Every day, everyone was focused on this goal. Everyone in the crew was focused on this goal. And I saw the best of the community because a lot of people came out to help. And it's just like I was on trail the entire time. Pretty much for 40 days, I was right there next to the trail. We camped in, either we did tent camping right on trail, or we were in the van, like on a road crossing right there at the trail. There's only one time we stayed at a hotel that was 15 minutes away. And that was for me, like, I need to get back. It was like driving me crazy just for that one night. So, I mean, that's a lot of time to be in like one area and to be in, surrounded by nature for that long, and then to, all of a sudden be back in a car. I remember when I got in the car for the first time, and it was just like overwhelming with how fast the car went, and just all of the people. It was overwhelming. I would say like that is a good word to describe it. And also like there was a lot of physical recovery that went with it too, and mental recovery. I had a lot of brain fog. I can't use that excuse anymore. I can't say I have this brain fog, so I can't think straight. It's been 3 weeks, so can't use that excuse anymore. But had a lot of brain fog for a while there, and had a glute injury that went along with the last day of the AT. Those are recovered, so I'm okay now. Just kind of miss the trail a lot. Post-trail depression isn't as bad, but definitely wish I was back there. It's, so special. It's such a special experience.
Have you run yet?
Yes, I've run a little bit on the treadmill, and I've done like a couple minutes on a hike. I was just like, all right, let's see how I feel. Didn't feel great.
Curious, you talk about the community and the stuff when you're out on the trail. I think sometimes even in ultras, people think that you're isolated and you're not necessarily around people, like in 100 or when you're doing an FKT like that. What was that experience like, seeing people on the trail and maybe having some people? Did you have some company along the way? People recognize you and hop in and maybe lock some miles with you out there?
Yeah. So I'd say about like 20% of the trail I was on my own, like just run along on my own, maybe like 20 to 30%. But the rest of the time I had a pacer with me, or like somebody who just like came in for a day and decided to do a couple miles with me, or like my teammate with Ultra, JP, he um came in at New York and went the entire way to Georgia with me, and paced, upwards to like 15 miles a day. So that was really nice to have him there. And then Rascal paced as well. So I had a lot of pacers, I had a lot of people with me, and that was really nice. It was so nice to be on trail with like the community and people who really appreciated the trails. And it was just fun to hear their stories, because I don't talk a lot during these endurance efforts. I like to listen. So I got a lot of stories and talked to a lot of people, got to know a lot of people really well. And then in the beginning, there was a lot of through hikers going northbound that knew what was going on. So yeah, there were a handful of people that recognized me up north.
When when you're out on the trail for the day, how many times throughout that day are you interacting with the crew? Like how many check-ins are you getting?
Yeah, I Rascal says it was about six. She says on average there's like six crew stops a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're averaging, let's just call it 55 miles a day, how much of that is running? How much is walking? Or is it
Yeah, so I'm not sure mileage wise, but pretty much uphills. I was always hiking quickly up the uphills and then running the downhills and the flats. So some days were more downhills and more flats, so I was doing more running. And I know those days my legs would be pretty sore, like especially at the flats, because your legs get so used to the climbing and the like downhills that when there was a flat section, your body would feel it the next day. But yeah, I guess it was like half and half, so a little a little both, a lot of both.
and you bring up the uphills and going downhill and then being on the flat and your body kind of taking a toll from that. And before you mentioned some of your techniques to bring yourself into the moment, did you have days where you went to bed and man, that was a great day, and then you woke up the next day and felt like someone hit you with a shovel?
Yeah. Yeah. That definitely happened. There was like a pattern there for a while where it was like I would have a really good day and then the next day would be really, really hard. And so it was like, good day, and then it was a hard day, a good day, and then a hard day. It was interesting how that happened. I'm not really sure what happened there. But yeah, there was a lot of mornings that I mean, I would still like get on the trail, but it was just so hard to get going, and my body was wrecked, my mind was wrecked. I was so tired. It's just hard to get going.
And I know that there was a point where you kind of fell behind by a bunch of miles, correct? As far as the
Yeah,
record.
yeah.
What what's your advice to anyone who kind of gets in a situation like that, whether it be on the trail or in life, as far as, hey, you had this goal going out there and it is not in reach, but you kept on trucking along and chipping away at it, and the next thing you know, you get the record. So what's the
Hmm.
kind of mindset, and do you have any advice on that?
Yeah, I guess I have a couple forms of advice. The first one is, if it is like a supported effort, if you are able to have a crew or a team with you, I would say like rely on those people that you trust in your life to get you through it. Because without Rascal there, without my mom there, they were the ones that encouraged me, who did the mileage, who did the math, and who understood what it would take to get back there. And it was hard. It was a lot of miles. We had to up the mileage from like 50 consistent, like 50 to 52s to like 58s then to get the record. And we were hitting like anywhere from like, I remember she gave me a 55-mile day and that felt like easy, but it was anywhere from like 56 to 60-mile days that I was going towards like the last half of the trail to get the record. So I'd say like for anyone, any advice, I would say like get a crew that knows you, knows your motivations, and knows the end goal, like what are we trying to achieve here, and get them on board with that goal. And then it's, you don't do it alone. For me, I did not do it alone. It was with the help of Rascal, my mom. And then another piece of advice is like, don't be afraid to fail. I think, people might, you know, do these types of records, FKTs, or just like anything in life. They try to do it and they fall behind. And then, they give up before their like abilities gave up. Does that make sense? It's like before, for me, it was like my body feels okay. Like I feel all right. And the only thing that was holding me back was like my mind. I was telling myself, like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can like achieve this. And I realized I was like, well, like my body feels okay. Why don't we just keep doing these big mile days until my body fails? And then we'll have to really rethink what is going on there. So I'd say like, don't be afraid to fail. Like just, I know some things feel daunting, but the really great things are achieved when people kind of go beyond those limits that they perceive and go beyond like limits that other people have put on them, and they see what is truly possible. So I'd say just like, don't be afraid to fail and go for that really hard goal.
I love that advice. There's so many times where we'll take ourselves out of something before our body will take us out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you get another inch, you got another inch, and next thing you know, you're going the next day. You also
Mm-hmm.
mentioned your crew getting you through, and I am Rich's crew chief, so we've had some mumble fights on the trail, me
Mm-hmm.
trying to push him along and him trying to just whatever. Did you have any moments like that, or were you trying to be grateful the whole time and you didn't let your emotions get the best of you?
Oh no, like there was several moments where me and Rascal would argue, and I would ask her, because I wouldn't ask her until about halfway done for the day how many miles I had. I remember this specific fight. We were hiking up Big Bald, and JP was with us. He was going to head back down. He was just going to do like a mile out and back with us. And so he was walking up with us, and Rascal was pacing me up Big Bald. And I was like, okay, I'm feeling great. I was like just moseying up the trail. For some reason, I thought she put 56 on the mile on the miles for the day. And not that that's easy, but it's definitely easier than like what she put on there, what she did put on there. So I was like, Rascal, how many miles do I have for the day? And she's like, you have 60. And the difference between 56 and 60 is an hour, roughly an hour and a half. And for me, sleep was so precious. And an hour and a half of sleep is so much. And so I got really upset. I was like, what do you mean 60 miles? And she didn't argue with me. I was trying to convince her that I needed to do less than that, and she wasn't having it, because Rascal is the boss. She's the crew chief, she's the boss, she's the one making the final decisions. My goal, or sorry, my job with the crew is the runner. That is my job. I don't make decisions. I don't do the math. Rascal's the boss. She makes the decisions. So she knew she had the upper hand, and I would have to listen to her either way. So there was moments where I really tried to get my way. I tried to argue with her. I tried to cry and make her feel bad for me, but she knew the goal, and she kind of removed herself from that like friend role that she's such a good friend and she loves me, but she had to remove herself as a friend and become truly embody that crew chief that, you know, unfortunately, I'll say this, cracked that whip, and I just had to listen to her.
What was the biggest day you put in?
60, I think
60, yeah.
61 or 62. I'd have to ask Rascal.
Okay.
Some
Hey,
days I
talk.
would just kind of like, no, no, no. Yeah, biggest day was the last day was 129 miles. And day, if we're talking about like just a
Hmm.
continuous in FKTs, when I say day, that is like a continuous movement with no like large sleeps. So it was over like a 40 some hour period, but I consider that a day. But if we're just talking about like a 24-hour period, it was probably like, I think it was like 61 or 62.
Okay. Hey, talk about the importance of sleep. Jimmy and I were kind of just chatting about this before you jumped on, about like how difficult it is living down in the South, and like coming in from a day out, and like you have to take a shower before you go to bed just to kind of get that off you. Like, how is it getting to bed every night? Like, is it, I mean, obviously you're uncomfortable because of the miles you're putting in, but did you have a hard time falling asleep once you put your head down, or were you out?
Oh no, I was out, just completely zonked at that point. It was not difficult at all.
How about getting up in the morning? Was that difficult?
Oh yeah, that was hard. Luckily again, the crew was amazing. Like all I had to do in the morning was, you know, get dressed and put my Leuko tape on my feet to prevent those blisters that had formed and, you know, take care of my feet that were just destroyed. And then get my socks on and get my shoes on and get out the van or the tent. Rascal was hand feeding me, you know, JP was preparing everything else. My mom was there preparing, you know, my pack and what I needed that day. So really all I was doing was getting my feet ready and getting dressed. And, you know, it's such a team effort and I'm just so thankful for them. I'll say that 100 times during this podcast, probably.
And were there times where you just were off on the trail by yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when in Maine, I was by myself a lot because we didn't have a lot of pacers in Maine because it's so rural. And once we got into the whites, I got a lot of pacers. Vermont had a lot of pacers, like the north, like New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Mass. We had a good amount of pacers. Um, most of the times, if I was on my own during the day at any point, it would probably be early morning. So like 3:30 a.m. to around like 7 a.m. And then, you know, I'd pick up the pacer for the day or for that section. And that's where those would start.
Take those early hours just to kind of gather yourself, get ready for the day.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
usually dark and, you know, peaceful out there as well. So it was a good time to just gather myself. And also the mornings were pretty difficult. Most of the times they were pretty difficult just because I'm tired and I'm sore. And so I sort of self-motivate really well in those moments that it's really hard. So it was probably the best. It was probably best that I was on my own for those sections just so I could self-motivate in a way.
At the beginning of the podcast, Rich mentioned he found you on YouTube, and we love the YouTube channel. And I'm curious, how does that go? I know you're rolling out the videos now from from the AT, but I'm curious, at what point are you worrying about getting a record? And at what point are you, hey, we need to get footage of that, or hey, we need to get footage of that, or oh, we need to charge that battery? How do you kind of manage that doing what you just did?
Yeah, so the vlogs are really easy for me. Like I vlog all my races as well. And the vlogs are really easy. All it is, my phone look, this is all from the AT. See all those cracks on there? But so that just tells you how often I get the phone out. But really all I do is just like selfie and vlog it. I would just get it on my pack, vlog real quick, and then put it away. And it didn't really take that much time at all. And nobody else was getting footage. It was just me like getting my phone out, like videoing a view or videoing myself for a couple minutes and just it was nice to do that like monologue about a section if I didn't have a pacer especially. I would like talk about what happened or where I was in the day. And then I'm so thankful I did that. Looking back to the through hike in 2019, you know, at the time making those videos as I was through hiking was really difficult. But I look back and I'm so thankful I did that because I can, you know, relive this incredible adventure. So I really wanted to incorporate vlogs into this FKT, one for like looking back on the experience, but also like providing some sort of guidance for whoever else wants to go out for the FKT. And it's just a new way of like experiencing the through hike. I've watched so many people's through hikes on YouTube. So it's just like this new way of experiencing it. Like somebody said today, they're like, this is insane that you made it. I think I posted day 3 today. It was like, it's insane that you made it to this point on day 3. Like I watch Sobo hikers and it usually, you know, takes however long. So I was just really excited to like share that experience with my subscribers.
So you're telling me you have a YouTube page with 32 plus thousand followers all off of that iPhone?
Oh, yeah. Well, there are certain videos that I've, really put a lot of production into. Like my mom started through hike in, I guess that was last year, and I brought my camera, I brought my like stabilizer camera, and I brought all my gear for that. But yeah, so most of the vlogs are just on my iPhone,
Yeah,
which
that,
I mean, it has such a great camera these days.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty impressive. Yeah.
Tara, so you spent a lot of time on the AT. You've run quite a few ultras. You've traveled all over doing these sorts of things. And as we mentioned at the beginning, Jimmy and I are from the East Coast. And like a lot of people from the East Coast, we have a lot of pride in being from the East Coast and or, AKA the Beast Coast.
Oh, yeah.
We asked Carl this as well. Curious, West Coast versus East Coast trails, which are harder?
East Coast, like 150,000%. And I know Carl said the same thing. Did he say the same thing?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, he knows. He
he said New
knows.
Hampshire and Maine specifically are the hardest.
Yeah, well, he's a New Hampshire boy, right? He's from
Yeah.
New Hampshire. Yeah, and then he spent, I mean, for his adult life, I guess he's been in Colorado. So of anyone, he should know. And yeah, I'm very confident in my answer as well, at being the East Coast is absolutely the hardest.
Yeah, it's pretty burly and can get pretty gnarly with the roots and the rocks. And
Hmm.
1 second you're on your feet, the next second you're on the ground.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So
Tara, curious, what's on the horizon? What do you have planned for 2025 and beyond? Are you going back to Hardrock if you get in? I know there was you're going to have Alina, but just more from a spectator perspective. Have you
Hmm.
changed your mind at all on that?
Yeah, I thought like, oh man, like maybe I'm okay. Maybe I could just suffer through it. But then I'm in this era where I'm trying to listen to my body. Like my body did so much for me on the AT. I asked so much of it. And so I'm really just trying to listen to it. Like I could definitely just grunt it and like struggle through and complete the race, but I don't need to do that. So no, I'm still gonna be a spectator. And for 2025, I don't really have any solid for sure plans. I have some ideas of what I want to do, but yeah, just more races, maybe an FKT, another FKT, but just playing with different ideas and seeing what's possible with the recovery.
What sort of races or FKTs like set your soul on fire or stoke your bliss just thinking about them?
Yeah, I would say just like anything that's just really rugged, really tough, very competitive, something that's really gonna like push me to some limits. So that could either be like a really hard, difficult trail and there's no record on it, or that could be like a really competitive route like the John Muir Trail, like a supported FKT on the John Muir Trail. That could be something like that. It's just anything that really pushes my limits.
Are you leaning more towards FKTs or do you still have some races you have your
Oh
sights set
yeah.
on?
Well, I would love to do, again, like you said, I would love to do Hardrock one day. I mean, I have goals of, if I get in, I would love to do Hardrock every single year for the rest of my life. So if I get into that, I would love to do it, but also would love to compete in Western states. And there's like an amount of trails or sorry, races that come with getting into Western states. So I'm looking at those and also just trying to listen to my body. I don't know if I'll be ready for those races, but just trying to like take it day by day.
How about UTMB? Is that something that's no?
No, it's so many people. I've seen the start line, and if Denver gives me anxiety, there's no way I'm doing UTMB, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I left Denver because it gave me anxiety.
Yeah. Dude, I was just driving here and it's like, goodness gracious. Nothing
Yeah.
against Denver. I know people love it, but I don't know. Not my bread and butter at the moment. That might change.
it's got a soft spot in our hearts. I think a little
Yeah.
bit more mind than riches, but
Mm.
I graduated college there, and we lived there for like 5, 6 years. So I
Mm-hmm.
definitely have a soft spot. That said, I was ready to get out when I got out, but today I was telling Rich I was walking today and I was crying. I was like, "I'm sorry, Denver. I'm sorry." But Rich mentioned UTMB, and you said no way, too many people on the start line there. But I know Rascal is going out of the country to get on some trails. Do you have any interest on getting some trails out of the country?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I would love to do the Mont Blanc route just without any people, I guess, just doing it just for fun. My friend Liz has gotten into a lot of like international FKTs, and so I think I'd pick her brain about a couple of those. Uh, I don't know a lot of trails outside of the country, so I'd have to really do a lot of research. Maybe I'll go with Rascal and, hike a little bit on the Teora.
All right, yeah.
At New
I was
Zealand, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I was listening to that podcast she did, and that kind of got me scratching my head. Like, yeah, there's gotta be stuff outside of the country to go trek after you conquer what we have in the United States. Um,
Hmm.
all that said, I am curious to how do you train to do something, an endeavor like that? Is it just an accumulation of what you've done throughout your life and that's what gets you ready? How long did you kind of prep for that and what was your mileage going into it?
Yeah, for the AT specifically, just training and running on trails has just been, part of my daily routine for since 2020, since 2020 really. So, I just am always training. It's just also how I enjoy spending my time is being on trails. But I thought the Hardrock training, because I had Hardrock 3 to 4 weeks before doing the AT, I thought the training I did for that in Silverton would translate really well to the AT. So I didn't do any specific Appalachian Trail training. I did go out there and like check out road crossings, but I sort of knew what the terrain would be like, and I thought all I need to do was like do a lot of like time on feet. So a lot of big days in the San Juans was kind of what that came down to. And I thought that would translate really well, and I think it did. It ended up a good result. So maybe that's just the new formula.
All right. And one last thing I got for you, if Rich doesn't have anything before we get in the final four. Is there anything hindsight being 2020 that you wish you did different or was it perfect?
It wasn't perfect. It wasn't perfect, but um if I had to change something, mm, hmm. I think I might, because I went through a couple different models of ultras. I'm a big ultra fan. They are the perfect shoe for my personal foot. But I settled on the Olympus around halfway through, and it was just like the perfect shoe. Like it felt so good to run on the trails with the Olympuses. But I went through like the Mont Blanc and the Timp and like felt okay in the Timp, but I felt like the Olympus was like the shoe for the AT. I kind of wish I did more research or like went on trails more, and kind of decide between the two. I feel like I might have gone like a tad quicker if I had used Olympus from the beginning.
Interesting. Did you
Yeah.
use them in 2019 as well when you
I
did the through
use
hike?
yeah, I use the Lone Peaks, and
Yeah.
those don't have as much cushion for running that I prefer. The Olympus is like very thick cushion.
So you'd been using Ultra as you kind of transitioned
Oh,
into more trail running, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I started through hiking in them, and that was in 2019, and ever since then, I mean, I've been in ultras ever since. Love ultras.
Yeah.
Big fan.
I have a hard time sometimes with the zero drop, but I like to walk and hike in them for sure.
Yeah.
I got one last one for you, Tab. Just curious, maybe from more of like a through hiking perspective than an FKT perspective, but for people that are interested, maybe taking on a challenge like a through hike and spending 4, 5, 6 months doing that, do you have any tips or advice for those sorts of people?
Yeah, I would say like uh, something that I neglected in 2017 was that mental preparation and setting up my expectations properly for the trail. So, in my opinion, the best thing you can do if you want to successfully through hike is to expose yourself to the trail and expose yourself to through hiking. And so what that looks like is doing like several shakedown hikes. So going out there for, a day to a week or even a couple weeks and just exposing yourself to the trail and just keep going out there. And like a lot of people go out there, and for me, like I missed family. I also like wanted to complete a through hike. I just wanted to check the box, like I through hiked. And so I was always looking to the future. I was always looking to Katahdin. And in 2017, I wasn't experiencing fully like immersing myself in the culture and the community and, the nature. So I was always focused on Katahdin. And then in 2019, I just realized like maybe that wasn't the best way to experience the trail. So I wanted to like immerse myself in the community, and I had smaller goals, and I wanted to have a trail family so I wouldn't, miss my family back home. Or I less so I'd be immersed in the community and have friends that I could like share with out there. Um, but the way I understood my motivations and how through hiking, how I wanted to through hike was by going out there and keep exposing myself to the trail and setting up my expectations for the trail. So I'd say like shakedown hikes and just like getting out there is probably the best thing you can do, and mental preparation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Final four, Rich.
Yeah, let's do it.
Tara, are you a coffee drinker?
Yes.
How do you brew your coffee and how do you take it?
Black, and I brew it in whatever way gets to me the quickest.
So do you do cold brew? How'd you do it on the trail?
I actually went on a coffee hiatus or a caffeine hiatus before Hardrock and the Appalachian Trail because I wanted to use caffeine as a tool when it got really, really hard, and it came in handy. So I didn't drink coffee consistently on the trail. Now I am, and it's getting a little out of hand right now.
Right.
So that you didn't start your morning every day with a cup of coffee, huh?
No, no.
Wow.
Yep, just raw
That's
dogged
intense.
it. Yep.
Tara, do you have any daily practices or rituals that you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of Tara Dower?
I wish I could say I take a cold shower every morning and I drink a glass of water before I even leave my bedroom, or I do meditation. I don't do any of that. I'm I know I should do these things, but it's working for me so far. I wake up, I eat maybe a sugary cereal. Right now, Captain Crunch is my preferred with almond milk. It is healthy because I have almond milk in there.
Hmm.
Um, and then I kind of like let the day unfold from there.
Captain Crunch, doesn't that destroy the top of your mouth? Doesn't it? Don't you
No,
get
oh,
no?
no, no, no. The dentist actually says it's really good for you. They say that's great. Lucky Charms too. They say that's probably the healthiest thing you can eat in the mornings.
Do you
I
have a
always used to get like cuts on the roof of my mouth from eating like Captain Crunch.
Oh yeah, it is sharp. It is a sharp
Yeah.
cereal. That's why you got to let it sit in the milk for a little longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
do you have like a flavor of choice? Is it like crunch berry or peanut butter
Oh, allergic to peanut butter, so I can't do that. But I kind of I'm on the original train right
or
now.
okay. All
Yep.
right.
Well,
You dabble with fruity pebbles at all?
Fruity Pebbles, yep. I'll do what are they called? Oh, what are they called? I do all of it. Lucky Charms, honeycomb, you name it, I do it. And sometimes I'll get shredded wheat, and people have told me that's not a healthy cereal, but it looked healthy, and I'm gonna believe it's healthy.
Tastes healthy, right?
Yeah, it does.
What are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
Yeah, I am reading a book. I've been reading this book for such a long time. I'm a very slow reader, but I'm reading A Little Life. I don't know how to say the author's name, but it's a very big book, and I have aspirations to complete it, and I am not giving up. And then I am listening to a podcast called From the Backcountry. My friend produces it in the Northeast, and he gets on a lot of people who do these like really tough adventures all over the country, but specifically the Northeast. And he's talking to my friend right now, Scott, who just did like this insane 100-miler in the Whites. And he went through like Mahoosuc, and he went through the Pemi and the Presidentials, and I think he got like 36,000 feet of gain. And then as far as music goes, I am listening to, let's see what I've got on here, like the first song that comes up. I don't listen to Lady Gaga that often, but I guess she came up just right now. Like that is what I listened to the last. But the most recent artist I searched was, let's see, Rainbow Kitten Surprise.
Someone mentioned that before on here, Jim?
Yeah, Jason Welsh, the head coach of San Francisco State Wrestling.
Okay. Did you use music at all when you're on the trail?
Yeah, and it's funny. Typically, I'm a podcast, audiobooks kind of girl when I'm out on trail doing these FKTs or races, but I got really into just a lot of different music on the trail and listened to it pretty much all day with my pacers. So I have my AirPods in right now. So like I'd give an AirPod to one of my pacers, and we would kind of like listen to the music together, which was really fun.
Carl persuade you to get into the Grateful Dead at all?
No, he never convinced me, but I do like the Grateful Dead. They didn't inspire me too much on the trail this time around, but I do like, dabble in a little bit of Grateful Dead here and there.
Okay, right on. Tara, last one we have for you. Do you have a guilty pleasure?
I have a lot of those. I just need to think of one that I don't want, or I want to think of one that I'm okay with a lot of people knowing about. I love reality television. I watch everything on Netflix, any trashy show. It just brings me back to this really comfortable place. Like I said, the road is my home. Well, reality TV show is also homey to me. I watch The Circle. I watch Love is Blind. I watch Love Island. You name it, I'm watching it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jimmy and I are from the Jersey Shore, so we are well familiar with reality television.
Oh, yeah. So you guys are from Jersey Shore. I grew up for, my childhood in Sussex County in
Okay.
near Lake Mohawk. So in northern Jersey,
Yeah. Does the
near
trail kind
Sunrise
of go
Mountain.
through that way?
Yep, yeah, Sunrise Mountain. Yeah.
Okay. You
Yeah.
didn't go to high school in New Jersey though, did you?
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
no. We moved down to North Carolina when I was a kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you grow up in Boone? Like, did you go to high school in Boone?
Wake Forest, North Carolina.
Oh, Wake
So near
Forest.
Raleigh. Yeah.
Okay.
My parents
Right
just
on.
moved to Boone,
Okay. Gotcha.
which is kind of sad. They moved there and then the hurricane came.
That is a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Right on. Well, Tara, it was an honor and a pleasure to have some time with you this evening to hear about your experience, to hear about your crew, and throw some questions from the Airey Bros at you. So we are grateful to have you, and hopefully things in Denver lighten up a little bit, and it gets a little bit more relaxing for you, and you do enjoy your time while you are in the Mile High City. Like Jimmy said, it does hold a special place in our heart, even though we're not there anymore. So we do appreciate you and all that you do and all that you've done for not only the trail community, but also for all the people that you're inspiring, both men and women, to get out there and move their bodies and be healthy and do more than what they think they're capable of. So thank you for that.
Yeah.